Hi, everyone. It's Dee, your favorite self-love and mindset coach. Welcome to another episode of Eternal Evolution of Self. I have another amazing guest with me today. This is Troy Vincent, and he is a confidence coach, among other things. And I'll let him explain to you a little more about what he does. Hi, Troy. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I love that you've created this podcast and you're connecting with so many people. It's so cool, and you're a good person to chat with. You have that energy, you have that curiosity that's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
serve you well and serve your listeners well and serve your guests well. So I'm excited to be on that end of it here today. Yeah. So confidence coach, definitely an element, right? That I do. I'm a creator of the AuthenticU breakthrough. And so it's just really connecting to your true self. I found inspired by, my own journey, I guess. And as we all are as a coach, of experiencing where I was just hiding myself, elements of myself. I'd show parts of myself and then hide other elements of myself. And whenever I was true my true self, like that's when I felt the most joy.
Mm.
And so I was like, let's just be that all the time. And so I found the way to do that, right? And experience coaching for myself and had the big breakthrough, and it inspired me to bring it to others. And so, it was helping people get past their past. What I like to say is heal for real. One of my clients described it that way. And I said, I'm going to use that. It's how you heal for real, getting past your
Yes.
baggage, all that self-doubt and limiting beliefs and trauma. And what it does, it just connects you to your self-worth and your self-love and your self-trust. You have that self-belief. So your confidence shoots up right away. You're connected to your, authenticity, your alignment, which is your deepest level of programming is your values, and just knowing that and clearing all the baggage away from that and how that's been compromised from various external influences and internal, mental decisions that our brain loves to create. And so, yeah, just getting past all of that and connecting to your authentic self. And then the last step is, of course, communicating it, right? So knowing how to sit there and you've got this newfound empowerment. Now go out into the world and create that external existence that you want. As you know, and as we all come to learn, if we don't know this yet, we come to learn at some point. I know I did. And you hear it all the time. You're like, change happens within you. And you're like,
Yes.
yeah, I get that. Happiness is coming from within you. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get that. Right. Yeah, I think I know what that means. And you think that you know what it means. And then until you actually experience it, you're like, okay, yeah, I know what it means now. So it's connecting that, creating that inner world so that way you can go and then create it into your outer world. So that's the journey that I bring people on. And it's the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done in my life. That's for sure.
That's amazing. It's very, very incredible to get to a place where you feel fulfilled in what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned knowing things and then we kind of know it, but we don't really know it. And I heard Mary Morrissey one time say, when you know something, but you're not living it, you don't actually know it, you only know about it. And that's not the
Yeah.
same as actually knowing it. So, truly knowing something, we're living in, embodying that idea and that concept, right? So I think that's really cool. And how do you help people move from the past? Because I know that's something you mentioned, and I know there's a distinct difference in reviewing the past and reliving the past and staying stuck in that space. So how do you help people move past that?
Yeah. So a method that, I experienced myself, it's called mental and emotional release. And so I experienced that myself. I saw it in a friend first. She had depression in a big way. I was dealing with anxiety for the most part for myself. And so panic attacks was prevalent in my life and prevalent, and I didn't like that. And so we would kind of, buddy system, we would check up on each other and be support
Mm,
systems. And then, yeah, one day I just noticed, I'm like, there's something different. You just feel it, right? Like someone's energy just changes. You're like, wow, there's something different. She's feeling good today, and she'd have good days and bad days. And so like, this is a really good day, but there was something different about that. It wasn't like a high, of like, I'm flying high, I'm feeling good. It's not like that bipolar that my dad endured, that just being really up and then really down.
right.
There was just something different. And I said, what did you do? What did you do? And she just smiled and went, what do you mean? And I explained it. And she's like, I hired a life coach. And I'm like, what's that? Didn't even know
Right.
it. I didn't even know what that was. And then she explained, I did this process called MER, mental and emotional release. I'm like, tell me about that. I want to know what changed to help you have such a radical change. She expressed how she's like, yeah, my depression's gone. I don't have it. I'm not in that headspace anymore. My mind doesn't do what it used to do. And it just happened so fast. I'm like, I saw you 2 weeks ago. What changed?
Yeah.
and and she's like, hey, yeah, here you go. Read up on this. And so I did. And then as I read it, I went, wow, like this is possible. Like this is an actual thing. And the biggest surprise even still was it's been around since like the 90s. It's like, why is this not more well known?
Right.
And even before that, the technique that it's based on, timeline therapy, that's been around since the 80s. And it's been highly effective. And so, yeah, I went, okay, let's meet up with this life coach, and I did, and he answered my questions, and I hired him and did the process, and just people will get skeptical when it's like a quick fix thing, but
Mhm.
this part of the element of self growth and personal growth, it can be the quick fix. It works because it works with the brain, and does everything at the unconscious level, which is where all the actions happening. It's where your identity exists. It's where your beliefs are happening. It's where your emotions, emote from. And so you just go right to the source. And when you do that, you can just create rapid change. And so you're right. I love the idea of what you mentioned there. It's really important of not having to relive the past. And so that was, a big thing for me. And what I found, I was in therapy dealing with my anxiety. And so what would happen is I'd go and I would, explain, here's what I'm experiencing. Here's what, is happening in my mind. And I was just reliving it. I felt like I was on a weekly soap opera, just telling you, like updating my story. And it actually made my panic attacks worse. And so my therapist recommended medication. So I went on medication. I was like, I felt defeated in that moment. I want to be
Yes.
improving. I don't want to feel like I'm regressing. And so what I found for myself in my own experience with therapy, I don't want this to come off as anti-therapy. I think there's a huge place for it. And one of the best things I did was remember sitting down with my therapist, and she's like, you're not broken. One of the
Right.
best things I ever heard in my life. I was like, thank
Yes.
you so much. And I'll cherish her forever for that. And so it just got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to get past my story. And the process
Mhm.
wasn't helping me do it.
Right.
And so I was ready for something. And that's when I came across this process. And it's fast, it's gentle, and the best part is that it's permanent. But the fact that it's gentle is you don't have to relive your past. You don't have to go in and tell your stories. And this is an actual process that is used and has shown really great results for people with PTSD, and severe trauma, because you don't have to go and reassociate with it and try to figure out, make meaning, pull it up through that conscious filter and make meanings of things, try and reframe it, and make sense of it and shift your attitude towards it, because you're dealing with so much emotion. How can you do that when you're carrying that emotion?
Mhm.
So this process helps you just separate that part of it, and it does it in such a nice gentle way that yeah, you can let go of things and not even have to address them. So to give you an example of that, I myself I went to connect with my coach to do this process, and he got rid of my anxiety. Well, I got rid of my anxiety through the
Right.
process, right? And that was great. My panic attacks gone, like instantly in a day, just gone. It's been 2 years now, over 2 years. I just don't have anxiety anymore. It's gone. And just like my friend got over depression, gone. It's awesome. And then what I also discovered was I was carrying uh, fear of flying. And
Mm.
so my coach didn't even know that. I didn't even bring it up with him, right? Because that wasn't my main issue. It's like flying right now, being afraid of flying is not my, I got this over here that is really, altering my world. But yeah, I went to go hop on a plane, and something just inside of me said, it got to the point where I needed Ativan.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
uh, and so I was getting ready to kind of pop the pill. And I was like, something inside me said, you don't need it. What if
Mm.
you didn't take it? I think is what it said. What if you didn't take it? I'm like, oh, that's a curious thing. Okay, let's do that. If it's terrifying, I'll just pop it. It takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes to kick in. I'll be fine. And what I experienced, I think I was just perma smile for like the whole flight. It was like a 2.5 hour flight. And I was just smiling. I loved it. I felt so comfortable. and I was excited about the return flight. And I was like, who is this? Like, how did this happen? I didn't even try to release this. Like, this is incredible. And so you can get past, things without even having to address them directly, which is powerful. And then the biggest, the biggest secondary gift was a lot of trauma that I was carrying from my childhood. I just had a lot of abuse in different ways, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And it really, I could feel that trigger if it ever came up. You do the thing where you do the thing. You try to learn to live with it, right? And you
Right.
avoid triggers, and you try to handle it if you do get triggered. And you got all these techniques that are powerful and helpful, but it's like you're managing the problem, right? And so this process helps you just release it, get past it. And so what I always experienced beforehand is that if that ever came up in a conversation or in the media or whatever it may be, my chest would tighten up, and like right away, just felt like someone was sitting on my chest, and then my body temperature would just rise, and I could just feel constriction. I could just feel it, and I could feel resentment creeping in.
Yes.
It's like, oh, frustration or anger, and then buried underneath of that, which I later discovered after I get removed, it was just like, oh, it was really driven by terror and driven by confusion and shame,
Yeah.
and it just kind of showed up as like anger afterwards. And yeah, and then one day, that just popped up in front of me. I don't know if it was a conversation or what it was, discussion somewhere. And I was like, oh yeah, I can relate to that because I've experienced that. And I was just like so neutral. Like I was just like, and I caught it. I'm like, I don't feel the tightness. I don't feel my body. I'm like, I'm just so neutral to this. Like it's gone. Like it's just gone. And so, after I experienced that, I went and told my coach about that. And we never discussed that in the release process. Like he had no idea that I endured any of that.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, this is so powerful. So just know that you can get past your past. And that's why, my one client who said, this is how you heal for real. And I was like, that's a good way of putting it, right? It's not something you're learning to live with. It's not something you're just learning to manage. It's not something you're just kind of pushing to the side, trying to avoid, okay, don't trip that trigger. We can do that. Sometimes we stuff down our emotions or try to distract ourselves from thoughts that come up. And we have those solutions of managing, which is helpful. And it's better than not having those tools, that's for
It
sure.
is.
But this is how it's getting out of that management mode, which is draining. We don't even know how much energy that actually takes until you actually get rid of it,
Right.
and just putting you into release mode. Like it's just gone. It's like I don't carry that with me. That baggage is gone, and it's just so beautiful. Yeah, and I
So
shake my head that I get to help people do the same, take the same path, and
that's the
every
beauty
day.
of it,
So
though, right? You learn and then you share, and then it's a ripple effect for the healing. It starts with you, and then you heal someone, help someone else heal, and then it just keeps
yeah,
going. And that's the beauty of it to me. And that's why I'm doing this podcast because I want the ripples to keep going out into the world. That's why I remind people to like, share, and subscribe so you get all the info because and that's one reason I don't want to get locked down into one subject because there's so much value and so many different things that we need to like pursue the things that are right for us. But one thing I want to revisit with your story is you said you didn't talk to your life coach about these things. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you went through some processes that helped you release some of this stuff, but the other stuff that you hadn't talked to your coach about, you kind of released that on your own. Just kind of, how did that work?
so great question. Thank you for asking that. So the reason why you have all this, I had these like bonus release stuff,
Yeah.
it's the process. It's the process of, so what we could often do, like let's say you had a traumatic event,
Hmm.
and it's like you have a conscious memory and it's rooted to that. And if I could help you say release that and get past it, no problem, right? We could have it done in a day, no problem. And that's an individual thing,
Hmm.
right? So, for example, I call her Elevator Girl. I've called her Elevator Girl for so long, I forgot her real name. I remember I was at a conference or training where I was doing this, learning this, and she had a phobia of elevators, right? Traumatic experience where she was 6 years old. She was on an elevator playing with younger cousins. She got stuck. Elevator got stuck. No adults are around. They're in a panic. They don't know what to do. What you scream your head off. She actually
Right.
started playing games with the younger kids. If you can believe that, she had the that sort of level of like nurturing at 6 years old. She's
Wow.
like, I got to take care of this. And she played games for like 2 hours, just distracting them.
Wow.
And when it was all done, they pried the doors open and she's free. And she just like got out and collapsed. And she like everything just kind of washed all over her, right?
Yeah.
And that was it. She swore off elevators in that moment. She stayed true to it. Even in her 20s, D, when lived on a she lived on the 23rd floor of a building and she would take the stairs every day.
Wow. Must have been very fit.
Or yeah, that's a workout program right there.
Yes, it is.
And so that's how committed she was to it, right? And that's what happens a lot of times. We make these decisions, whether they're conscious or even unconscious, and we create these unconscious commitments, and we just start doing things to create this reality, and and make follow through with our beliefs and our fears to avoid what we want to avoid. And so she was doing that, and then 10 years later, here she is. She's at this training, and they do the process with her, and they isolated that specific process and release it. And minutes later, she's kind of like, weird. It's like, what are you experiencing? And it's like, I kind of want to go on an elevator. So there were 60 of us in the room, D, and we're like, let's go on an elevator. We're at a
Yeah.
hotel. We're in a conference room. So we got up and we started marching down. You would think even some people would even dread that, of
Yes, they
just
would.
having attention on yourself. Like
Yeah.
everyone's following me to an elevator. People got cameras out and stuff like that.
No
And all
pressure.
I knew, yeah, no pressure. But she was just like walked so calmly towards it. And one of the things of as coaches, when you develop your sensory acuity, where you just like you start reading people's body languages and any little cues to see, what's happening. Because sometimes, words are said, but what's happening underneath it? What's the content that's actually, what are they not telling you, right? That the body can show. And so I was in tune with that, and I was looking, and I'm like, she's not faking it. I absolutely despise the fake it till you make it approach.
Yes, me
I've tried
too.
it and it doesn't work.
No.
Yeah, it's a fast pass to imposter syndrome. I'll tell you that. Fake it till you make it. And so I'm like, she's not faking it. She's not trying to. She put it this way. We're in a culture where we value courage. It's like you got to summon the courage and face your fear.
Yeah.
You got to do this, right? And there's power in that. And there's also ego and pride rewarded for that as well when you
Mhm.
succeed. And so I'm looking, is she trying to be courageous here, right? Which, if kudos to her, she is awesome. But I'm looking, and she's like, no, like she's just got confidence. She's
Mhm.
just walking there. She's just confident. And I'm like, I gotta be on the elevator with her. Like I just made that my mission. I'm like, I want to see this. And I rode the elevator with her, and she was just so cool and calm and casual, just leaning on the elevator wall like she'd been riding the elevator every day for her entire life. And it was just
Mhm.
like, wow, this is so powerful. And so that was just releasing the thing in the moment, right? So
Mhm.
that may have a residual effect of everything that came out of that phobia for her. She would have released as well. But the process itself, you don't even have to go back and face the phobia,
Mhm.
to be true with you. Like there's something connected at a deeper level. And so the process, what we do is you find that it is. So if you bring me a problem, cool, I know that there's a deeper problem. And so we're going to find it. And so we just peel back layers and we get to it. And we find that deeper problem. And that's what you release.
Mhm.
And when you release that, think of it as like a tree. It's like, do you want to pull all the leaves off the tree? All the problems, all the leaves are problems or experience behaviors you don't want, or branches, right? It's like, do you want to snip all those one by one by one by one, or do you want to just get them rid of all, like take down the tree?
Right.
So you just kind of like rip it up from the root. And so that's what it is, right? You release that greater problem, and when you do, all it carries over into every other area of your life. So I was dealing with an area of my life where it was causing my panic, and of course that has a ripple effect on all the other areas of your life,
Mhm. Oh, yes.
and remove the greater problem. And so then that was resolved. The main one that I brought was gone, and all the other ones identified during the process were gone, and ones I didn't even identify during the process, such as childhood trauma, such as fear of flying, and all of those things, that all of those were gone too, because they were on the tree, they were branches or leaves, and we pulled out from the root. And so the whole thing is gone. And that's why you
Oh,
have that experience. So it's all
that's
kind of in the same moment, but you don't even know until something comes up and you're like, oh, I used to react this way and I don't do that anymore.
yeah,
Something's changed. And it's so cool. It's so,
that's
so cool.
amazing. So I'm curious, when you said, what would happen if I don't take the Ativan? When that voice came to you and said, what would happen? You know, like just let's get curious and think about that for a second. What would happen? And then you chose consciously in that moment not to take the Ativan and to go ahead and get on that flight. What was going through your mind? What were you saying anything to yourself, or what did
Yeah.
that look like?
So this would have been, I'm going to say 5 months, 4 or 5 months after I did my breakthrough.
Mhm.
And so what happens right after the breakthrough, it's so cool. I do a little self-assessment with people right beforehand. And I go, listen, let's at a score of 10, 10's max, awesome, can't get any better. And then one is like, this is the worst. Let's do a little grade here. What's your self-worth? Just let your unconscious mind answer. What's the first number that comes to mind? What's your self-love? What's your self-belief? What's your self-trust? And so I'll get these little scores. And I've had it so people who've been as low as like ones across the board. It's like everything's one. And usually it's just, a ray. Someone's 7 here, someone's 6 or 5 or 4, 3, 2, around. There's scuttles, right? Um, and so what happens is what I do is we do the release, right? And as soon as we're done, I do this again. All right, tell me, what's your self-worth? And they'll just be like, well, it's a 10. What's your self-love? It's a 10. What's your self-trust? That's a 12. Like, what's your self-belief? Nice. And there's like, what happened? Like, how is this possible? I'm like, yeah. So, a few hours ago, this was, these were all ones. Even the person who's all ones, they had all tens after the release, same day.
Amazing.
And this becomes just your this is just you. It's not a dopamine hit of like, I feel so invigorated. I feel so, worthy all of a sudden in this moment. I feel so I
Mhm.
can trust myself in this moment. It's like, no, this is you aligned with yourself. And so it's just connecting you with yourself,
Mhm.
because all of that's there. All of that's there. It's nothing out. This is where, we all seek confidence outside of ourselves. If I go achieve this, I'll feel more confident. If I have someone validate me, I'll feel more confident. If I go and, do this, I'll feel more that's how I get hits of confidence. And it's true. Those are dopamine hits, and they come
Yes.
and they go. And if you're
Mhm.
relying on that, if your confidence, your self-worth, your self-love, your self-trust, you're screwed. Like that, that's just, it's the game that we've been kind of taught and led down that
Mhm.
path. It's not needed, because
Right.
everything you have is within it. You can't lose your confidence. I'd love to say, like, help people know that, like, you can't lose it because it's in you. So it's
Mhm.
already there.
Right.
So you're just disconnected. All of that stuff, your worth, your love, your trust, your belief, you're all just disconnected from it. It's like electricity behind a wall. It's an outlet. You just got to plug back into it. It's there,
Right.
right?
Ah, that's a
So just
powerful
knowing,
distinction. Holy crap.
like, it's just there, right? And so when people
Yeah.
go, oh, how long does it take to get confidence? I'm like, do you have 3 seconds? Because we can do it that fast if you want. And they're like, that's impossible. Like, no, it's there.
Yeah.
Like, it's there.
Yeah.
It's whether you are connected to it or not. It's kind of like, also, I'll say, your confidence or your self-worth. It's like a volume button, right? Like on your TV or your computer or whatever. It's like, it doesn't go away. It's just either muted. If you were to mute us like right now, my lips would still be moving, Dee's lips would still be moving, the conversation's still going, we're still here. You're just not connected to it. It's
Right.
on mute or it's on low, distracted by other noises that are louder. And so that's what that is, right? It's like, just unmute it, just connect to it, boom, plug it back in. It's waiting for you. Like, it's just there. There's not a scarce amount of confidence. There's not a scarce amount of self-worth. You're born with all of this.
Mm.
Like, we are born with, and that's something that we lose touch with, right? I know I certainly
Yes.
did.
Oh,
It
I
took
did
40
too.
years to reconnect with it. Uh, think of a kid, like, we're all children. We learned, here we are, we learned how to walk, you know, how did we deserve to have confidence to learn how to walk, to just, try and stand up and wobble and fall down and do it again and then start stumbling and face plant and get up? And we felt no shame. We didn't feel embarrassment. We didn't feel like we were being judged. And even if we were, we
We
didn't
didn't
care.
care.
You didn't think of what will people think of me if I do this? Will they think that I'm an egomaniac because I'm trying to, reach for the stars? Like I should hold myself back.
Yeah,
How this will affect others? Like, no, you just go after it, right?
right.
There's just beauty. It's that's what you're born with. Like you're born with that. It's like I'm just gonna go and do this because I see it and I
Yeah.
want to do it. So that's actually our starting point. Like
Mm.
that's there and it doesn't go away. It just gets piled in and buried with all the stuff,
Yeah.
all the influences, voices that we collect over the years, especially during those early years of childhood and the imprinting phase, right? And
Mhm.
our brains developing. So all of that's there, and including self-worth. I I can't remember who it was, but they said look at a child, look at a newborn baby, hold the baby and go, you're worthless. You haven't done anything yet. You have to achieve something in order to be worthy. You have to be perfect in order to be worthy. I will love you when I
Right.
will, that's the most psychotic conversation you can have with a newborn baby.
Right.
That baby is worthy of your love right off the bat. That baby, is lovable right off the bat, right? That's the state we are born in. That is our innate, you know, gifts that we have. This is our state. This is
Mhm.
what we're born with. So you have your self-love and you have all this, all these things within you. We just got disconnected from it. And
Mhm.
so it's just connecting back to that and getting into that. What was your original question?
You answered it.
Sometimes I'm getting, yeah,
You
did
answered
I
it.
answer it? Yeah.
Yes.
So
But
yeah, so just connecting with your confidence, with your self-worth, and it's not external, it's just all internal, and it's right away. And so there's new levels of operating, like I said, right away, do the breakthrough session, you're all tens. And now that's where you operate from. And everything's just, oh, you asked me, what was I thinking with that voice when I was on the plane or getting ready to go
yes.
on the plane? So the long way to the story, to the point, I just had so much self-trust. I'm tapped into my intuition now. I don't hear fear anymore. Like when fear shows up, it's an easy voice just go, hey buddy, what's happening?
Right.
So I'm not driven by fear. I'm not driven by all these external influences and expectations and all those outer voices that become inner voices. And so it's just easy to tap in, and everyone just walks away from that breakthrough and you're like, oh, I'm connected with my self-worth and my self-love and my self-trust. I'm gonna just you're just neutral and natural, and it's just like this is just your essence. And so suddenly people are just like, yeah, that's not congruent with me, instead of thinking of all the pressures. So people pleasers love this process. I was one of them,
I was
where all of
too.
a sudden you're just with you, right? And you're like, oh,
Mhm.
cool, yeah, it's not congruent with me. And you just learn, you just feel comfortable standing up for yourself, listening for yourself, and everything like that. And so in that moment when I heard that curiosity of just like, what if you didn't? I was like, that's cool. Yeah. I just had self-trust, right? It's like, yeah, I love that. Cool. Let's go with it. Let's see what happens. There's no hesitation. Whereas say if you're before that, if someone would have said, what if you didn't take that out of Anne Troy? I would have been like,
You'd have been
yeah,
like, you're going to be sorry you're sitting by me. That's what.
I will not be good. I'll try to put on a show like I'm comfortable, right? I'll try and create the facade, but I wear my heart on my sleeve. And so you're going to see through me and I'm going to numb myself. So what I used to do is like, oh, I want to have a Coca-Cola and I want to have a little tin of Pringles. That's what I used to numb myself. Was like, yeah, this will distract me for minutes, and then I still get to endure stuff. And when turbulence hits, then I got to sit there and go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, let's wait for that to be done. Now, like that first flight after this, we hit turbulence, and my head started bouncing like this, and all I could think, D, was like, oh my god, my neck needed that. Oh, that felt so good. And then the turbulence stopped, and I was just like, just a little bit more, just a little bit more.
You saw one kink over
And
there
then
you didn't get worked out.
when you realize what's going on, you're like, what? This is crazy. Like, I can't believe that this is happening. And it's such a cool thing.
And that's amazing. So you mentioned that this isn't something that goes backwards. Like these changes, when you have these breakthroughs, they remain. throughout your life and they stay steady.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I want you to talk about that a little more in depth is because, especially in light of a summit that I just recently listened to, and there were so many women, because it was a women's summit, who posted in the Facebook group, how do I keep this energy going? Because now that the summit is over, I feel
Hmm.
like this just drop in energy. Like, how do you keep it going? So the fact that you said this is something that keeps going after the session is over and the breakthrough has been had, tell us a little more about that, because I know that a lot of people, they want that. They want that feeling to continue when they're in that, they're marinating in that energy, and all the people are on stage and they're getting this great advice, and everybody's, I mean, the high energy, and everybody's like, yes, yes, and all this stuff. And, and then after it's over, it's like this, you feel deflated, almost
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
don't have
You get a
that.
hangover, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely. So tell us a little more about that, please, because I know people have to be curious.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. I love this conversation. This brings us to, if it's okay, I'd love to talk about three energies.
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
there's creation energy, there's transformation energy, and there's completion energy. The be do have. So often what happens with these conferences, and my goodness, they get so addictive, right? Because it feels so good, and you're in that vibration of everybody, even if it's online. You're just like, oh geez, this feels really good, and you feel motivated, and
Yes.
it's like a dopamine hit, right? And it's just there, and it
Hmm.
keeps being sustained. And then yes, that energy will go away, that source of it, right? You're disconnected from that external source.
Hmm.
So the danger is we sit there and either we just kind of fall within ourselves and go, oh, I don't have that energy anymore, and you shrink, you stay small, or you start chasing it, right? You're like, well, I want to feel that again. All right, so I got to sign up for another conference, or I
Yes.
got to go and I got to, I got that when I listened to this podcast, or I got to go and I got to keep reading these books, or you find these sources that give you that boost of energy,
Hmm.
and it's all external, and there's positivity in it, obviously.
Hmm.
But if that's source, then you're always chasing it, and then now you're just trying to like bring it in, like you said. It's like, and that can get overwhelming. And then what if you don't have time for be able to pull that stuff off? Or what if going to these things costs money, and you're like, I don't have all the money in the world. I can't,
Right.
I got a family to, it's like, and so you're like, but I want to have this. And so it's, you get focused on the do. What do I have to do in order to keep that momentum, to build them, to feel that energy? What do I have to do? And so that's the mistake that we make, and all of us fall prey to it. And because it's the first level, it's like the surface level, you try to
Mhm.
find the quickest path. All right, I did this, and it led to that. I'll either do it again or do something similar or whatever it may be, and that'll create this. And so you try to do that. So what you want to do is you want to go another layer deeper, and it's what you do and what you're experiencing. It's based on who you're being. So that's
Mhm.
the lower level, right? What you have is based on what you do. And we get trapped in, like, you want to have something different, you got to do something different. And that's why we
Mhm.
try to take action. We don't get the results, and we get confused or whatever it may be. And the truth is, we got to go deeper, because what you do, like what you truly do, it's based on who you're being.
Mhm.
And then what you're being is what you're believing. And even those beliefs are attached to your deepest level of programming, which is your values. And that's the driver of everything, right?
Yeah.
So getting in touch with that. And so that's what, say, this process, and there's, this isn't the only path. What I do isn't the only path. I don't like it when people come out and go, this is the one way that you got to do it. It's like, well, there's
Right.
multiple paths to a mountain, up to the top of the mountain, right? This is one
Yes.
way. This is a very fast way. I prefer fast. It's fast, gentle, permanent. Yes, sign me up. That was the right one for me, right? And
Right.
people listening will know, that sounds congruent with me. Cool. And then others would be like, I don't know if that's for me. Cool. Like, that's just great awareness. And there is a path. Just so you know, if this isn't the one for you, there's another way to get there. Go find yours,
Yes.
right? But it's connecting to your being, and it takes away all the limiting beliefs, all the gunk, all that baggage, and removes it, right? And it frees
Mm.
up your value, and it shifts what is important to you. So often say, if a lot of things that hold us back, we experience fear, right? If I were to ask someone, what are you afraid of right now? they're probably going to have a response.
Yes.
If I really, I'm afraid of this, and if they go, I don't know if I am afraid of something, and if they sat for a moment and go, oh no, wait, I'm actually afraid of this, like, so for example, I had someone once go, I'm not afraid of judgment. I go, great, that's awesome. And then they sat with it for a few minutes later. I was having a conversation with someone else, and they go, actually, you know what? Yeah, in this area of my life, I'm afraid of judgment. Oh, I'm afraid of rejection there. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and they started to peel their own layers and go, yeah, that's holding me back in this way. And this, oh, geez, I didn't even know that I was afraid of that.
Right.
So a lot of these things sit at the unconscious level, right, where they're hidden and they're affecting us. They actually drive us, right? And so it's just removing those things, getting it away from your values. Fear is all about just love, safety, belonging, and it
Yes.
drives our behaviors. People please because we're afraid of losing love, or this is how our strategy for gaining love, right? This is our sense of belonging. Like, oh, I don't want to be alone. I'm afraid to be alone. So I gotta, surrender myself. I gotta give up a portion of myself, at least a portion, if not all of myself, sometimes, right?
Right.
And so self-abandonment right there, right?
Ooh,
And so we can
yes.
run those patterns, and
Mm-hmm.
it's to nurture values. It's like I want to feel safe and I want to feel
Right.
love, and I'm not going to be safe if I don't have all these things. When you release that, then suddenly that value of safety, that innate survival level of safety, can take a breather. It comes down.
Mhm.
Other values can actually come up and have a say
Yeah.
what your experience of life is, right? And so suddenly, you're like, you know what, I'm more adventurous, or I'm just curious instead of scared and judgmental. I'm willing to explore this over here right now. And I have, you start to run from a level of motivation within.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a conference anymore to feel motivated to go do something. You just go
Right.
do it.
Right.
You go do it when no one's watching. You go do it when you're just alone and go, yeah, I just have this curious, I have this drive, this inner drive, rather than just being pulled externally towards
Yes.
something. It's like, just have this motor, this inner motor that goes, yeah, here we go. This is just being true to me. And
Right.
so what you'll experience is that it's the emotional high isn't there. Sometimes I just feel motivated. I don't have to sit there and get into a high state of,
Like a
of
frenzy
energy to go,
almost.
all right,
Yeah.
out in the world. Yes, like ready. It's like I just wake up and I just have this natural drive in me. As soon as I, step out of bed, I'm like, cool, I'm just moving forward, and it's aligned and it's natural.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit there and, all right, I need to, and it's like kind of that when people say, oh, I need my first cup of coffee in the morning, don't talk to me until, I need this to
Yeah.
get right. Again, an external source, right?
Right.
You don't need that. If you want, I'm not telling people to stop drinking coffee. Go enjoy
Right.
it. I
Yeah.
can't stand the flavor of it, but doing it, this
Uh,
is just like, you don't need it, you want,
right.
and you wake up with energy. You are just a natural, nice level energy. It's just like, this is just you. This is where I operate from now. And
Right.
so, yeah, you have that natural drive that just propels you forward. Put it this way, if you were to think of like driving a car,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to accelerate towards where you want to go, and you're pressing the gas pedal, and then put your other foot on the brake, right? At the same time.
Right.
And even if you've never done it in life, you can already just like feel the resistance. You're like, well, that's not going to be helpful.
Right.
And it's like, oh, yeah, foot's pressing the brake, and now you want to go faster. What are you going to do? Well, I got to push this even more. Okay, now you're really revving up that engine, right?
Mm-hmm.
The RPMs are going up high just to try and get anywhere.
Yes.
So think about like external sources like that. It's like you got to rev your engine high just to try and get yourself to feel this motivation and go take action.
Mm-hmm.
When really, instead of doing that, what if you just took your foot off the brake,
Yeah.
and now you can drive at whatever pace you want, right? And even if you took your foot off the gas, what's interesting is that you ever have like be in first gear and your car just starts moving,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It just it's just a natural little forward movement. Well, that's what you have. Like, it's just already there. And
Right.
now it's just, as you take the foot off the back, you already have this natural forward movement. That's
Mm-hmm.
just your natural state. So
Yeah.
procrastinate, go away, and you can get past all of the stuff that's been holding you back, and you start to move forward and you get to decide how fast you want to move forward. Does
Yeah. And it's like,
that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. Because I was just thinking as you're talking, like, this is so my life right now. Like, because I have just recently been able to turn down the noise, like
Yeah.
little bit by little bit. Didn't happen all at one time, but just turning down the noise. And because when you're, especially when you're in the coaching world, there's like 500,000 coaching programs out there, and you should do it this way. And this, if you do this, this is like a guaranteed, you're going to make $10,000 in 10 weeks. And, I mean, there's all these programs, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of them, but I'm
Oh,
looking at this and I'm like, I'm kind of done with programs right now. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't
yeah.
feel drawn to take any more programs. And so what is it that I want to do? So just learning to listen to my soul and going, this is what feels good for me right now. This is what my soul craves. That's why I started this podcast. And I wasn't going to, then I actually started it with someone else. And then we decided to go our separate ways. And then I thought, I'm going to keep doing this because this type of stuff has been so beneficial to me in my life, listening to other people. Wayne Dyer was a huge person that I listened to so much. And I still
Yeah.
quote him, and I still like have my days where I'm like, I just need to hear him. And I'll put something on Wayne Dyer and listen to it. But I'm totally at that place right now where I've taken my foot off the brake. And some days I press the gas pedal a little harder. And some days I just let myself glide along in that first gear, kind of natural forward motion thing that you were talking about. And it feels so good. And I'm meeting so many people, and I find myself hearing these amazing stories, which is so incredible to me because listening to other people's inspirational stories just hits me, because it's like, yes, that person did the things and they went from place A, which was crap, to place B, which is beautiful, and it's just, so yeah, I get you. Like, I feel that so deep in my soul right now, just that exact thing that you just described. And it's amazing. Like, it feels
Yeah.
freeing. It really
It's so
does.
freeing.
And then I just keep
It's,
getting
it's,
out my Kleenex and going like this because I get myself all emotional about it. Because I'm like the world's
that's
biggest mush
good.
pot
Yeah.
over here, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And I wish it for everyone. That's the thing. Like, I want everyone to be able to feel that feeling of you get out of bed and you just get to do what's in alignment with your soul for the whole day, every day. Like,
Yeah.
how beautiful is
Yeah.
that?
You start deciding, making different decisions. You start taking different actions. And yeah, I could literally sit there at the end of the day. My brain tries to convince me I didn't really achieve much. And I go, yeah, all I achieved was this, and that. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a bad day.
Yeah.
It's like natural forward momentum, right? It's like, yeah, even on
Right.
the slowest days, we're moving forward. And that's what's beautiful. You don't feel stuck anymore,
Right.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's good. And things can come up that get you stuck, but now it's like you have ways, there's first off, you have knowledge that it can be different, which is
Yes.
powerful in itself. The most thing
Yes.
to know. That's the first thing of personal growth is connect with hope. Know that it
Oh,
can be
yeah.
different, right?
Yes.
Not just for a select few, but it can be different for everyone. It can be different for you. It's always the biggest message I have. Listen, if you have depression, anxiety, I experienced it, and
Yeah.
there's another side of it. Get rid of it. It doesn't take years of sitting in your pain and talking through it. There's another way to do it. If you want to do it that way, cool. Like, that's your path. Awesome. But just know that you can get on the other side of it, and you can have something very, very different. And it's
Right.
not, an illusion or high or anything like that, right? It's like, okay, this helped me feel good. It distracts me from my depression and my anxiety. So I'll just
Yeah.
keep doing this. It's like, no, you can't maintain that. You burn out,
No.
right? So connect, release it, heal for real, like getting rid of all that baggage. And you not only just, you get out of that trance that all of our habits have put us in
Mhm.
until we consciously become aware of it and get out of that trance of what feels normal. And we've all experienced that. And you share with me if you have, where you get to the point where it's like there's a part of you, it's like there's got to be more to it than this, and then
Oh,
there's another part because like, well, no, this must be it, like, I guess this is it. It's like you resign, right? You're like, well, I guess this is it. And what I like to call it, toxic appreciation,
Oh gosh.
where you sit and you use the words, I should just appreciate what I have.
I should just be grateful.
That's I should just be grateful for what I got,
Yeah.
right? I should not be greedy. I should not sit there and wish for more, and then you start thinking of things like, oh, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And the lesson is to not leave your side of the fence, right? It's like, okay. And so you just use these things and you twist them to keep yourself small, keep yourself trapped in your rhythm. You start appreciating, well, I have this, and that. And what you're actually doing, you're not building an appreciation list. You're building of reasons why, things I'm scared to lose list.
Yeah.
If I try to explain myself, maybe I'm going to lose this, and that. And so you're going into fear mode, right? And you're
Yes.
clinging, and there's scarcity. Appreciation is not designed to put you in scarcity. It's supposed to do the opposite. And so
Right.
when you do appreciation right, it's just like, I love that I have this and I have that and I have this. Cool. And I can have more if I want and go and create that for myself. I don't need it, but if I want it, there's no shame in that. I don't need to be embarrassed. And if I only end up with this, that's fine too. I appreciate what I got. And it's just like, you're just in the state of abundance, right? It's like, yes, I love what I have, and that's great. And if more comes to me, I'm going to appreciate that too, rather than shrinking yourself going, I should just be happy with what I got. I shouldn't wish for this over here. I shouldn't, wish for better communication in my relationship. I should just be happy with what I got right now. I shouldn't be, wishing for to be treated this way and have my voice being heard. I should just be happy with the level that I am heard at, the things I do get to share, and ways I do get to express myself. I get to express myself 70% of my 100% self. I should just be grateful for that, because I could easily go into a situation where my friend over here, she doesn't, get to express herself at all. And so I should just be grateful for what I have. I'm like, no, you're playing a comparison game. You're like, it's just
Right.
so many red flags, right? You're just keeping
Yes.
yourself small. And that's not what we want to do. You expand. We are energy, and energy is meant to expand. So
Yes.
keep expanding, keep growing, and just connect with that and know that that's the state that you can choose to be in. It's all a
Yeah.
choice. So that's what I
Yeah. And
wish for
also
everybody who
say that again.
that's what I wish for everybody who wants it. I used to
Oh
say, I
yeah.
want this for everybody. And then I added the caveat. I'm like, well, not everybody wants this,
They
and I
don't.
sit there and tell my story. I'm like, this is what I experience now. And like, I want this for everybody. And I'm like, well, some people are just not in a state to receive it. Like
That's right.
if you share it with them, like, I don't want that. And you're like, okay, I respect
Okay.
that completely. This is
Yeah.
right for me. You do what's right for you. Awesome. Let's do it. For everyone who wants this, I want this for you too.
Yes, exactly. I need to put that in mind as well because I say that I'd like to give the whole world an IV infusion of self-love. But, quite honestly,
Yes.
like you said,
Yeah.
some people aren't ready for that yet. And I get it because
People
there
aren't
was a
committed
time
to
when
it.
I wasn't,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I think one of the most beneficial things that I've done for myself is give myself permission for my journey to look different than even I thought it was going to, because it's been so interesting for me since I started into the world of coaching, that my journey, I started out wanting one thing and then it evolved into something different, which evolved into something different, which evolved into something even more different than that. And now I'm not even really doing much coaching. Now I'm doing this podcast. And quite honestly, I love the coaching portion of it, but I love this even more. So it's like giving myself permission to know that I spent the money and I spent the time and I spent the energy and all of the stuff that went into everything else that I've done doesn't mean that I did it wrong because
Nope.
I'm doing something completely different on the surface than all the other stuff, which to me, this is still coaching. I'm still getting the messages out to people and things like that, but it looks so much different. And not that I don't want to still coach. I still plan to do some of that. At least that's what I keep telling myself right now. But I really love this podcast stuff. I really do. And talking to people and hearing their stories and seeing how different the approaches are to different things. It's just completely fascinating to me.
Yeah,
So
And that's amazing. And I want to applaud that, high fives and heart swooshes of being able to tune into that, because that is a part of our personal growth that we all have to experience. And we come to it at different levels where you just let go of outcomes, you let go of the path, right? And go,
Hmm.
oh, because you want, there's we see people who've done it a certain way and you want to go and do it, right? Go, hey, they can
Yes.
help me get there. And that's true.
Right.
But even say with someone who comes to me and they're like, I want to hire you, and because I saw that you took this path and that's what I want to walk. And I'm like, your path's going to be different. And that's what it's exciting. That's
Yes.
why every client is so fun. I don't get, it's impossible to get bored because you're not just trying doing the exact same experience with everybody. It's
Right.
just like everyone's on a journey and unfolding in different ways. And like, this is so cool. There's some congruencies, there's some similarities and between them all, but it's like, but they all have their own little details and harkens back to how you talked about programs, right? There's so many programs, and often when it comes to marketing, they want to try and sell their solution,
Hmm.
right? Because they have a solution,
Sure.
and part of that is going, others are doing it wrong, and this is the way you need to do it. And again, notice the do energy. If you do this and do this and do this and do this, then you'll have this, right? So
Yeah.
they don't teach you really what to be in order to do it. They even forget, oh, I need to be this, I need to believe this, I need to be connected to these values in order to do all these things to create this result. And even if you had all the same values, all the same beliefs, everything like that, and you go do it, it's still going to get a different result.
Yes.
It's just the way it is,
It
right? And
is.
so just knowing and recognizing that there's different unique paths, like we talked about, right? There's more than one path to the top of a mountain, and there's even multiple different peaks of a mountain. So you can take a path, get to the top of the mountain. You could be at a different peak. You don't have to be standing on the peak I am. You don't have to be standing on the peak that D is standing on.
Right.
You get to go and get your own peak, and
Yeah.
that's why it's called personal growth, right? It's a
Right.
personal journey. Yeah, it's not
Yes.
the, hey, the formula, here you go, plug it in, and now we'll all be the exact same. Who wants to be the exact same?
Right.
That's
Not
that was our
me.
mentality when we in school and trying to fit in with everybody.
Yes.
Now it's time to break free, go be yourself. And so letting that unfold and tuning into that, connect with your values. I had one person goes, are you going to try and like I think I want to work with you because you have a lot of the same values. And they're like, I want to know your politics and I want to know this. I just want
Oh,
to
yeah,
know that
no.
we're aligned so that when you put it on me, you tell me what to do, that I know that it's congruent. And I had to stop myself from like bursting out laughing because I fully appreciate the concern.
Right.
And upon a time, I might have been that same way. And I just know when you connect with a good coach, there's probably people who are coming from a different spirit and doing it wrong and trying to, force their beliefs on you and
Yes.
their values on you. But for myself, it's like, my values, my beliefs, they don't matter in this process.
Right.
Like, I'm helping you. That's it.
Right.
Right? Yeah. What's right for me might not be right for you. And what's
Yes.
right for you might not be right for me. I'm going to help you connect to what's right for you. Let's get congruent in line with you. I don't want you to try and be me. I'm already me. You don't need
Right.
to be me.
Yep. You've got that nailed.
Some, yeah, tough enough for me to be me some days, right? So don't try. If you try to be me, oh, it's going to be a train wreck. You
Yeah.
go be you. When you step into that, oh, it flows. Things come easier.
Yeah.
It's way better. So
It
I'm
is
so
way
happy
better.
for you
Oh,
that
thanks.
you've
I'm so happy
connected.
for you too.
Just having that flexibility, right? That's what I take away from it. And you can tell me if that's an accurate perception. It's like just having that flexibility, giving yourself permission to go. It doesn't have to be that path. There's no singular path, or it doesn't have to be any of these ones. And it doesn't have to be at this certain pace, and it doesn't have to be, something I need to have locked in along the way. I can just go and go. This is what I want to follow right now and do, and then I can pivot at any time, right, and shift and see what I grow into. But this is what feels congruent, and so I get to follow that truth,
Yep.
step into that, and then see what comes of it from afterwards, because you have no idea. Yeah.
No, and that's totally where I'm
Yeah.
at with everything right now is like I don't know, but it feels beautiful and right now. So I'm just gonna roll with it and see what happens, and it just it feels so good. and I find myself being really excited about it. And I think that's, that's, to me, that's very telling when you feel excited about it. Like, who am I talking to today? I'll get on my phone and I'll look up the people that I'm going to be talking to that day and like, oh, this person does this topic and this one does this topic. And it's like I get to talk about these topics all on the same day. And it's just super exciting, and the energy of the conversations has just flowed. I haven't had any conversations that yet that I felt like were just got stuck or didn't feel good. They've all
Right.
just kind of flowed.
Grinded
So
up.
yes. So I feel like, that's very telling. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing
Yeah.
and just roll with it, and success looks different for everyone. So we'll see, and I find myself like, I'm very much an inquisitive person. I question everything. Like, why is that? And, I've had people tell me, well, it's not going to be an overnight success. That's not the way it works. And I'm like, why not? Like, who made that freaking rule? Like, who said that? Like, maybe it does happen overnight for me. You don't get to tell me that. You know what I mean? Because it does for
You have
some
no idea.
people, so we don't,
It does.
to make, there's things, certain words and that I think I would just love to remove from the vocabulary because I think they're so overused. One is hard and one is broken and the other one is can't. These are three that I would love to just kind of like at least limit the way we're allowed to use them, because if we continue to say how hard everything is, we talk ourselves out of even wanting to try. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
hard, right? And then
Yeah.
broken is another one, because typically when you think of something as being broken, it means it's beyond repair. And I don't think any of us are beyond repair. And hurting and
Or
being
it'll
in
never
pain, pardon me?
or it'll never be the same again. Like you can repair it and like, oh, it'll be disfigured. It'll, won't look as good as it did, or won't operate as good as it did, even if I do quote unquote fix it. So yeah, removing that broken aspect of it is a
Yeah.
great, great
And
idea.
then can't,
Can't go wrong.
like I go back to the popular quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way you're right. So why say
Yeah.
can't? Why not just say I might not be good at it right now, or I might not know right now, but just open up the door of the possibility instead of just locking down the I can't, you know,
Yeah.
because if, and
Yeah. There's
especially if you
power.
don't try, you know?
The power of our words, right? It shapes our reality. It confines us. It kind of, it paints us in a corner in a lot of
Yes.
those ways. Because if you believe something and you're like, well, that can't be done, then you've literally just told your brain to ignore any possibilities, even if they're staring at you in the face, that proves that it can be done or suggests it can be done. By holding on to that belief, and if you keep leaning into it, you're telling your brain to ignore any evidence that it can be done. And any evidence that even gets thrown in your face and you can't ignore it, you'll sit there and go, well, that worked for them, but it can't work for me. It can't be done
Right.
for me. You'll creating these offshoot beliefs.
Yes.
You'll try to, our unconscious mind is designed to, live up to our beliefs and fight for them.
Yes.
So it will, that's why you see people and they're so resistant. You're like, well, I'm presenting this evidence, and they're so resistant
Mm,
to, just accept it. It's because they're carrying something, a deep belief in them that's not allowing them to do it. They're coming up with reasons why, no, I got to disprove that. I can't accept that right away. I got to go through this whole checklist of why that isn't, right? That
right.
can't be done. And if somehow it passes the test, then maybe they can accept it. But often it's like, no, there's a loosening, if you
Yeah.
do it without trying it without guidance, I guess you can overcome it with time. And yeah, if you know the tools to do it, you can overcome it in split seconds. And
Yeah.
then there's everything in between, of course, too. It's just we all
Absolutely.
experience things. Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. We can nerd out on neurology and how the brain works. That's what really elevated my personal growth, was learning how the brain works.
Yeah.
Once I learned, I went, what? Oh my goodness. I started shedding a lot of that language, and
Yeah.
it really helped some beliefs in there. And that was powerful. And then the next level for me was, experience the same mental and emotional release where it's like, oh, I can take all the gunk that is still stuck there and then get that out and then really, set myself free and really be in full bloom, really just, I can't even imagine trying to hide myself anymore. It's
Yeah.
just like, wow. Yeah. I don't know. Someone's going to be able to relate to this and maybe you can or not.
Oh,
I used to, I used to say I was shy. I'm like, I'm a shy person until you get to know me. And then I open up and, I love connecting with people. It's something I just love doing, always have. It's been natural for me. We are creatures of connection anyway. But I'm shy at first, especially around bigger groups, more shy I am, so on and so forth. And I just thought that's me. That's just who I am, right? I turned it into an identity statement.
mhm.
And then what I discovered as soon as I released all the baggage, I was like, oh, I'm not shy at all. I was just, what I was doing is I was running a strategy to stay safe. And
Right.
so what that strategy was, I'd be around people and I think I'm being shy, but what I'm really doing is sizing up everyone.
Mm.
I'm getting to know what's safe to share, what's safe to reveal, what
Yeah.
parts of me am I allowed to show, right? That's going to be
Oh,
accepted within the group.
that's
And so
powerful.
this is happening at the unconscious level. I'm not doing
Yeah.
this consciously, going, here's my strategy. I'm going to write this down. I'm allowed to talk about this. I'm allowed to talk about it. Like, it's not something I'm doing consciously. It's just at the unconscious level. That's what's happening. It's just
Mhm.
going, okay, we're allowed to, this is how we're going to fit in. Show these parts of yourself and you'll fit in, right? And then it's like it drums up the programming. Here you go. You're allowed to talk about this. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I feel inspired to talk about these things, right? And I'm fitting in and people like me. Okay, cool. And it's like, that was a strategy I used to run at the unconscious level. And I didn't realize it until I let all the stuff go. I
Oh
went,
my God.
oh, yeah,
Troy, you know
I
what comes
totally
up
did
for
that.
me? You know what comes up for me when you say that? I say, and I've actually just said it recently to somebody, sometimes you have to pick your audience. You know what I mean? So do you feel like that's kind of the same thing? Like just,
No, no, great question. Thank you for asking that. Sometimes you got to pick your audience. I mean, you can check in with yourself, right? And so it's just a personal question. Am I limiting myself that way? Am I hiding myself? Is this a strategy? Am I lying to myself essentially going, "Oh, they won't receive it, therefore I shouldn't share it." Is that what's the strategy? You can check in with your unconscious mind. As the more personal growth you do, you can even do this little trick, the muscle test. You ever do that one?
uh,
Little muscle test. So you kind of like put your fingers together like a chain link and you
right,
go, show me a yes. So for me, usually most of the time, a yes is when they break apart. Okay. For other people, it's when they're stay together. So for me, a no is together. So I sit there and go, hey, I say that I can't remember what was the exact phrasing you had. Like, use that exact phrasing and check in. Is that a strategy to keep myself small? Yes or no? And your unconscious mind will tell you.
that's
It
a
will tell
great
you
trick.
what
I'm
it's
going to
ready to
do that
reveal.
because I love stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd when it comes to that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm going to try that.
And
I really
so
like that.
you'll trick your conscious mind. Like, you'll be fooled sometimes. Like, I'll sit there and go, do I believe that? And I'll go, really? Cool. Consciously, I don't believe that, but a conscious and we can get into that, like why self-sabotage happens, of how
Right,
your conscious mind is the setter, your unconscious mind is the goal getter. So even if you believe consciously you can do it, or consciously you can do it, but if it's not down in here in your unconscious mind, you're not going to do it. It's going
right,
to sabotage you. That's why we sabotage ourselves, or you have short-term, success and progress. And then you sabotage yourself because of the gunk, that baggage that you're carrying in there. And then, cool, I get to go identify it and get past it, release it, and however, myriad of ways there are to release it. So yeah, that's a good question to ask for yourself. So that's what I invite you to do. Ask that. And when I said that statement, am I keeping myself small? Am I holding myself back? Is that a strategy? Or am I just preserving my energy? Right? Like, I don't want to talk to people who aren't in receiver mode. you
right,
know, if I'm going to share something that I'm excited about and I know they don't care or they're not in the mood to hear it, that doesn't mean you're being shy. It doesn't mean you're holding yourself back. It just means, like, yeah, that's not going to land and connect with them. So, what? Am I doing it because fearing judgment? Am I doing it because I'm fearing rejection? yes, no. And then if it's based off that, then you're like, okay, yeah, that's not good. I
Yeah.
want to get rid of that gunk.
A little more self-growth.
But you might just be like, hey, I just want to have conversations with people what they want to talk about, what I want to talk about. I want to, have those congruent conversations. That's it. I want to preserve my energy. Otherwise, I feel like I'm talking to a wall.
Right.
And I'm not in the mood to do that right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it could be either or, right? It's finding out, which path that actually falls down. No need to assume that it's good or bad. Yeah. And this just popped into my head of, talking about shyness. A lot of us mistake the characteristics of being an introvert. We think
Hmm.
that being shy means you're introvert, because
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, I'm just an introvert in ways, and so on and so forth. And I hear a lot of people go, yeah, I'm an introvert. That's why I don't like posting on social media. That's why I'm, afraid to put myself out there. I don't like, that's why I resist this, because I'm an introvert. That's why I
Yeah.
do it, Troy.
Hmm.
And then we do release work and they're like putting themselves out there all the time. And they're still an introvert. Like they're still
Yeah.
introverted in many ways.
Yeah.
We're never one or the other. There's a
Right.
scale, right? And it's just like, yeah, introvert just means like, you need to go be by yourself to kind of, just recharge your energy. It has nothing
Hmm.
to do with being shy or
Yeah. And that's a
I'm a very
great
expressive
point.
person. Yeah, I
Huh?
don't hide myself anymore. I'm not shy anymore. I'm
Yeah.
still an introvert. I
Yeah.
still sit there and go, cool, I want downtime and just quiet and just be in nature, or just have a nap, or I like yoga, or just relax and chill out, or listen to music, or whatever it is. I'm just going to do my strategies of just like need my alone time, so that way I maximize when I'm, connected with people, and show up in my full true self. And so it's just managing that, right? And just so disconnecting from all those things. Introvert shouldn't really necessarily limit you. Extrovert shouldn't necessarily limit you in big ways.
Right.
And so sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking, oh, this is what I am, therefore. And when you keep, that's the power of the identity statements,
Yeah.
right? I am an introvert. Well, okay. And if you have an idea what an introvert is, and if you believe an introvert's shy, you are literally never letting yourself become unshy,
Right. And it's
because you
so
made your
interesting you brought
identity.
this up because I'm actually a person who has I take after my dad in the way that I have always been more apt to talk to somebody, especially after I went into nursing and stuff like that. And I just, I went into, when you're dealing with the public, you either learn to talk to people or it can create a big problem. So I'm very comfortable talking to people and putting myself out there in that way. So I thought I was an extrovert until, and I'm not a big, huge person on labels. We'll get into that. But uh,
Right.
I actually read the definition and I'm like, holy crap. I am actually an introvert by this definition of what an introvert is, because I am that person. Like I can talk to people, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, now I need my time. So y'all gotta like just poof, y'all need to just all go away now and let me have my time where I can, just restore my own energy. And I didn't realize that before. Then being a huge
Yeah.
empath on top of that, where I feel stuff so deeply, it I have to have that time to myself to get my energy back into shape again, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can relate to this. You can tell me if it's different for you. But what I've observed is that often we'll sit there and go, well, I'm an introvert, let's say, and therefore I need my alone time, and I need this amount of alone time. They decide, right? You decide this is the amount of alone time I
Right.
need, and then I'm allowed to expose myself for this much. And the truth is, that's not true. The truth is, it's like when you are out and about, say, being in an extroverted situation, who are you with? What's their energy? What's the
Yeah.
conversation? If you're connected with something like me and you, I think we could talk for like hours,
Yeah.
right? And
Sure.
I have that introvert side of me. It's like, well, I'm knowing and I need to recharge. This isn't draining my energy. I'm going to get
Exactly.
off this call. I'm going to be like, I've got so much energy right now.
Right.
There's other things where you go and you do, and you're like, it drains your energy fast, or even like
Yes.
you can let it drain your energy instantly. And you're like, I can only tolerate X amount of minutes of that. Right. And so just being aware of like being careful not to sit there and shape it and kind of lock yourself into an idea and a concept. Like you said, putting labels on it and then
Mhm.
restricting yourself, and just just getting to observation mode, because there's going to be some days where you can have all the energy in the world and it's just okay, well, notice what's contributing to that,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. I had an experience like that not long ago when Steve and I were at the grocery store, actually. We both went in there. We had good energy. We were laughing and talking on our way into the store and everything. And then we're walking around like everybody's like, I mean, every single person, the energy was so low. And I looked at Steve and I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of here. Can we like, let's hurry up. Let's walk a little faster, do things a little faster and get out of here because it was so, I mean, it didn't, we walked as soon as we got out the door, we were like laughing and talking again, and everything. But while we were in the store, it was like, holy crap, like what is going on today? The energy was so low and so tight and just sad, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
just being able to connect with yourself enough to feel that and know that that's not you and you still get to keep that higher energy level. But it was like palpable, truly. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, the environment can have an impact, of course. Who you're with can have an impact, and yeah, there could be external factors that can, you know, especially if you don't, you're not mindful of. Because I mean, you can be the person who walks in, and your energy can emit and shift the energy of a room, of
Yeah,
course, but also the room can shift your energy too. And just knowing what state you're in and what's right for you, it's like, yeah, maybe this is let's get out of here instead
right.
of having to inform everybody and shift this. Yeah, yeah, it's just bringing in that awareness and just having that curiosity. It's a
Oh
word
yeah.
that both of us have said. I know you've said it. I'm sure I've just have said it myself, but I'm aware of what you've saying, and it's such a powerful state to be in. Just having that curiosity
Is
um, of just exploration and just
yeah.
without judgment or like that, or feeling you need to make even a decision right in that moment and make it mean something. It's like, let me
Mhm.
just be curious about this. Oh, this is interesting.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like we could talk about this for like 3 more hours, but in the interest of our viewers listening timetables, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of close this out today. So, Troy, is there any other pieces of advice you'd like to give us in closing today?
Um, Thank you for asking, and I think I've touched on it. It's always the first step is always just connecting to possibility, knowing that it's possible, having that hope. And so for anyone who's carrying anything, especially if you catch yourself, labeling yourself, even as we were having that conversation of introvert, extrovert, I had come to mind, people who sit there and go, oh, I'm not good with crowds, or I have social anxiety and so on and so forth. And then you assume make it mean something and go, therefore I can't be around X amount of people or in this place and so on and so forth. These are just, walls you're building up in your own life. And so just know that those actually don't exist. It's only in your mind. And you can get past all of that. I had severe anxiety where I had severe panic attacks and had them for like 2 years. And I wish that upon nobody, but I'm still at the same time so grateful I had them, because it led to this
Yes.
and shifted my life in such a powerful way. It inspired me to, you know, sent me on my personal growth journey. So, whatever you're dealing with, you can celebrate in the fact it's like that could be the catapult. And then I just encourage people to, instead of looking for those external things to manage, release it, get inside, connect to that, and release that stuff, because all that baggage, all those negative emotions you carry, and by negative emotions are just emotions at the surface level. If I'm going to nerd out about that, they're neutral. Negative emotions, I mean ones that are trapped in you. And so, have you ever overreacted to something? Yeah, I used to. So
Yeah.
when you're doing that, you're reacting to the present and the past. And so it's like this old emotion is still there, And so for me, panic, I had fear based on stuff in the past, and I was bringing it into the future. And, once I let it go, it's like, oh, I don't have that anymore. So now when I experience fear, it's just this little touch of it. I'm like, oh, okay, I can trust my feelings now. I can trust my emotions now, right?
Right.
When I get annoyed by something, if I'm mad about something and it's a level 8 out of 10, it's like, no, this is actually very, misaligned with me, and that I can trust that. Whereas before, if I was an 8 out of 10, I'd literally have to sit there and go, am I overreacting right now? Is this a big deal? Am I making this a big deal? and
Right.
so, and so carrying all these negative emotions, carrying all of the limiting beliefs, all that baggage, there's science out there to show how harmful it is. And it's not new science. Even new science, like they keep coming out with new stuff, but this was actually, really talked about in the 90s. Even if you look up Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he talks about the biology of belief
Yes.
and how your beliefs actually literally affect our cells and
Yeah.
how healthy our cells are. And
Hmm.
so we carry bad beliefs. Guess what happens? It actually harms the cells. It changes what our physical body. And if you got empowering beliefs, guess what? It livens up, cleans up your cells. And so just knowing that a lot of these things, there's a lot of autoimmune diseases that are caused because of the baggage we carry.
Hmm.
Diabetes has been connected to it. Cancer has been connected to it. Heart issues, heart disease, heart attacks, digestive issues. There's just so much. And so essentially think of it as this way. You have a spiritual body, your essence and your purpose. And then you have your mental body, your thoughts. And then you have your emotional body, which you're experiencing emotionally. And so all those three bodies are kind of like if you put them on a ladder above your physical body. And if there's any dis-ease in any of those, they just trickle down. Any spiritual dis-ease, it's going to go into your thoughts. Of course, it's going to disrupt your thoughts. And it just affects your emotions, which affects your body. And so it just trickles down. Everything pools into your body.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is, not only is it just making your reality less pleasant and keeping you small and everything like that, but it's actually affecting the quality of your life,
Hmm.
and your physical ability. And then it's also shortening your life. And so for some people, sometimes we sit there and go, yeah, I got these fears. That's just a head thing. And I can manage it. I can manage it. Right. And there's great tools to manage things. I'll manage it. And that's it. Like I'm good. If you have it and you manage it, it's still there and it's
Yeah.
still causing your physical harm. So some people, they won't go and spring into change unless they know it's physically causing them harm.
Right.
And so I just invite everybody to really connect to that truth, look at the biology of belief and know that this has been around for 30 years, but it's starting to finally catch on as the way society often does. It takes time
Yes.
and it's starting to awaken to the fact like, oh, actually, the way I think affects how I feels in my body. Oh my
Right.
goodness. This is pretty cool when you start to connect it all and go, yeah, this makes sense now. And so that's the power of, relieving yourself of anything spiritually, mentally, emotionally, because it changes your physical experience, right? And and so I invite people to, yeah, shift from that management mode into release mode and really get past it, because
Into
that's
the
when you really
healing for
set
real.
yourself. Yeah, I used to, for example, I had tools that managed my anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like I had breathing techniques, meditation, journaling, um, medication, right? I was on anti-anxiety meds. I was on Ativan for flying, and so I had these ways of managing the anxiety. I thought it was a life sentence. I really did. That's what I was
Yeah.
led to believe. It's like, this is life now. And I'm glad there was a part of me that kept the door open to go, well, what if it's not? Right? Like
Right.
you say it just like it's hard. Like, well, what if it's not? And
Right.
this is your life now. This is what you're gonna have for the next X amount of decades. And I'm like, oh geez, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, what if do I have to have that? And then I discovered no, no, you don't. So
Right.
just know that, yeah, I invite people to get out of that management mode
Yeah.
and get into release mode so you don't have to have that anymore. Just like I don't have triggers of, my childhood trauma where I had to manage, yeah, that tightness, that anger, that everything like that. I don't have to manage my fear. It's just gone. It's just gone. And that's when you are totally free and reconnect with your true authentic self. And that's why I do the authentic you breakthrough to help that happen. So thank you for this opportunity just to connect and swap energy. I love nerding out about this stuff. It's just
Yes, me
totally congruent
too.
with me.
It's
And,
it's it's so good. It's so
uh,
juicy. I don't even really like to use
yeah.
that word, but gosh dang it, it fits right now. So tell people how to get in touch with you, Troy, if they would like to experience this mental and emotional release and do it the quicker route and the quicker and effective, and you're not going to go backwards on this. This is going to be a lasting experience. So tell people how to
Yeah,
get in touch with you.
absolutely. Yeah, it's happy to connect with people, because sometimes it's like, this sounds too good to be true, and don't believe in quick fixes. And what I like to just caveat that, when it comes to true change, like change, there's four requisites. Four, okay? Number one, deal with your baggage, release that. And so, say with the breakthrough session, we do that in a day or two, like it's gone. So step one's gone. So is that a quick fix? Absolutely yes. That doesn't mean your journey's done.
Right?
It'd be kind of like, listen, all that ugly furniture that you have, or let's say there's a flood in your house, like, and all your furniture's wet, and you're like, well, this is ruined. We need to get new stuff in here. We're going to move all the junk out, right? That's step one. Get rid of the baggage. Step two is like, okay, now we got to decide, what do we want to put in there? We got to go and start taking action to do it. We got to stay consistent and make it happen. So when people are saying, well, change takes a long time, it's like, what change are you talking about? Right? Like you said, like, why are we labeling it hard or easy? It's like, there's one guy that I really like, and he just keeps saying, life is hard. Life is hard. This is why you got to do this. And I love a lot of what he says. And then he's like, life is hard. I'm like, I just can't agree with you there.
Yeah, I can't either.
There's elements of life that can be hard. We make it hard mentally, even.
Yes.
And then there's so much, like, before I did release, life could be very, very hard. Simple things were hard. And now hard things are simple.
Yeah.
I don't feel that strain or stress anymore. It's like, yeah, nothing's hard. That's just a label, and that's just a reality you kind of start creating. And so, yeah, getting past your baggage, that it can be created instantly, and so it can be released instantly. Simple as that. Simple as that. And there's not a lot of people. There's some people who they can't fathom that,
Yeah.
but it happens every day. What I do, I experience it myself. Every single client has done it. And so it's like, well, it's just, the proof is there. If you want to ignore it, if you want to sit there and doubt it, okay, I can't help you with that. And
Right.
what's the benefit of doubting it? What are you sabotaging yourself for? If this is the path that's congruent, great, let's do that. So it's fast, it's gentle. You don't have to relive trauma like I was doing in therapy, reliving everything that was putting me in a panic. There'd be sometimes a therapy session would happen. I'd be like, are you literally going to let me out the door? Like, I am so stressed right now.
Right.
And then permanent. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, they've been doing it for 30 years, and there's just no relapse. And so there's more literature that I can provide on people for that. The way to get a hold of me, a website that I'm uploading here, AuthenticU.ca. And so the U is the letter U. So AuthenticU.ca. I'm in Canada, so that's our CA for Canada. Yeah, AuthenticU.ca. But I work with people around the world. And it's really cool. It's again, another aspect of this coaching that I know you enjoyed too, just connecting with people all over. And I got clients in India and London, England and Estonia and Spain and down Peru in the States and across Canada. And it's so neat. It's just so cool to connect with people and learn about them.
Absolutely. And people can connect with you on social media as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Look up Troy Vincent. That's I guess one way to do it. On Facebook. Um, Instagram, it's Brain Ninja Coaching. You can tell as I look off to the sides, like, I don't go on Instagram a lot, do I? But yeah, the best way is just go to AuthenticU.ca. And yeah, just see, just investigate more, see what's aligned. That's the biggest thing. Um, whenever someone says, so you think I should do this, I'm like, I think you should just do whatever's aligned with you.
Right.
This process is not for everybody. There's going to be
Right.
processes out there that it's not for me.
Right.
I don't feel it. The caveat that I always like to add at the end is, listen, if you look into this process and you're like, this has got me intrigued, I I want this result. I want to be free of this. I want to be able to just trust myself and step into myself authentically in literally a day. I want to be able to do that. And I want that to be the me. One client said, I thought I was going to be the new me. Turned out I'm the true me. I thought that was so
That's
poetic.
awesome.
And I was like, oh, geez. I'm like, yeah. Why does everyone say all these wonderful things? They come up with the perfect words. I never do.
Yes,
I'm
you
just like,
do.
it's awesome. You got to do it.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
I
they're
speak
so
that
poetic.
language.
Yeah. and and uh and so if you're listening to that and you're like, that's what I want, like I am so tired of dealing what I'm dealing with, and I want to get past my past, and I want to just heal, and I
Yeah.
want to be able to move forward and create, design, like redesign my reality, right? Get out of the trance and the default mode that I'm in. Awesome. And if you think, this process is, because this is part of the process I do, and if you think this is something that feels congruent, I want to learn more about it, great. And if you sit there and go, I don't know if Troy is the right person for me. It seems like it's the right process. I'm not feeling Troy's vibe. Or maybe you're a woman and you're like, I'm not feeling it. I don't know why. I've been best friends with women. I was in the friend zone all my life in school. But let's just say maybe there's a gender block. You're like, I love this, but I only want to work with a woman. Great, cool. I'll, connect you with, I have, other master practitioners of mental and emotional release and NLP who do this, and I'll pass you along and refer you to people I trust. There's a few people I trust, and I'll send it. If we're not vibing, don't force it. Do what's congruent with you, right? And so if the
Absolutely.
process feels congruent, not me, I will. My goal is not to sit there and work with everybody. My goal is to help people empower themselves. And if I'm just there to pass the torch
Yep.
to that's and I'm living what I want,
Yep.
that's the same as whether someone hires me or we just touch base for a free session to start with, and then or if I'm able to pass them along to someone else who's a better fit, like absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's a beautiful thing. And you're still doing the work in doing that. It doesn't
Yeah,
not every person is meant to be your client. So, and you're still doing the
yeah,
work in that way. So I love that.
yeah.
So,
I had one person reach out, and the result they wanted, it's like, yeah, I could help you do that. She's like, great, I want to work with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I do like what you specifically want. I have a friend who, this is their specialty. And so I can help you do the release work and everything like that, and you'll have the result. But like for coaching beyond it, they've been doing it for years. And it was
mhm,
revolving around children, right? And so I don't do like a lot of work with kids. I think the youngest I've done is like 16. So that like I want to do this process, can it be done with an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old? And the answer is yes. I'm like, and instead of me just going and doing it for the first time with that, I'm like, if you want to, I'll do it. It feels congruent with me. But I got a friend, she does this all the time. Like, this is who she works with, kids. Would you like me to connect you with her? She's like, yes, please. And then sure enough, they go on and start doing the work, and it's great. And I still get what I love out of it because I still check in a few months later. Hey, how's it going? Like
yeah,
what's changed, shifted, and they get to tell me, and I'm like, this is so cool. Like it's so awesome. I love it.
it is. I think blessings come from that too. I really do. Just the spreading the love, so to speak. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's beautiful. So thanks again, Troy, for this conversation today. I really appreciate it. Thank you to
Thank
our
you. I
viewers
appreciate
for coming in and joining us on this epic conversation. I really appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't heard me say that before, I'm saying it now and I'll be saying it again in the future. Please like, share, and subscribe to this Eternal Evolution of Self podcast so that we can spread the love even farther and wider, because we all need to be uplifted and encouraged and reminded that we can get curious about life looking different than it does for us right now. So, thank you again for being here. And as always, I love you all.